So thank you for joining me this afternoon. Today we are going to be looking at our course Collaborate, but before we do, we're going to take a look at some support material. Now these are different resources that Cambridge has on offer for you guys to help with the start of school and also to help with our learners throughout the year. Before we start, I just want to remind you that you'll receive a certificate in the follow-up email along with a link to the recording of this session. And also please do interact in the chat box or in the Q&A, and I'll answer any questions I can as we go through. So Cambridge support for teenagers. There are three things that I think we should really think about at the start of the year. Firstly, how we can create the right environment. You know, we all know that it's really important that our learners feel comfortable in class and it's the right environment. And so we're going to look at a few resources that can help us with that. Also, we're going to explore some different tools that we have on offer that can help your students on their journey towards language learning success. And finally, we're also going to have a look at different support that we have available, whether such as different websites and other activities that we can give you for free as well. So without further ado, let's look at creating the right environment. So there are three things that we should always try to keep in mind when it comes to creating the right environment. Number one is that how our students feel. And really our students need to feel like we care about them and their personal lives and their aspirations. Another way to call this is rapport. We need to make sure that we have a nice rapport with our learners, that they feel comfortable with us. And in that sense, when they come to our classes, they're going to be more likely to participate and more willing to engage. Another thing we have to remember is also to give them opportunities to have their efforts recognized. And the key word here is efforts. We should always try to make sure that we are recognizing the effort they put in, not just the final result, because it's those little moments of recognition that our learners really help motivate our learners, and it contributes to that previous one, letting them know that we're there for them and we're supporting them. And the final thing to remember is also that our learners need to have opportunities to feel successful and to move forward. Moving on, then, how do we do that? We have firstly, a blog that is a great place for resources. And in this blog, you can find loads of different activity ideas, inspirational articles. There's just tons of really great input from lots of experts from around the world. I would like to also add this blog post you can see here, Getting Back to School with a Bang. This is by Daniel Vincent. He's one of the co-authors of Collaborate. So it's a nice article as well, and getting a bit of his perspective on the return to school. And there are other resources that you can purchase from Cambridge, such as the 101 Tips for Teaching Teenagers by Herbert Puchta, a fantastic resource, loads of great practical tips and ideas, easily applicable to various different classes, whether you're teaching in an academy, in a public school, private school, university, wherever you're teaching. There's loads of tips here that really are great and easily applicable. Another great resource we have available are the Cambridge Life Competencies Frameworks. Now, these frameworks have a series of great ideas and suggestions on different competencies that we can help focus on in class. So not only helping our learners develop their linguistic ability, but also developing different life skills, such as learning to learn, collaboration, critical thinking, and communication. Within the booklet, you have guides on the different components with example can-do statements and example language as well. They are examples, so we can expand on them, we can modify them, we can adapt them to our context. This is just a really lovely framework to start from. You'll also find how the different competencies are integrated into our learning courses. We're looking at Collaborate later on in this session. Now, Collaborate has learning to learn really well integrated into the course, and I'll point that out to you when we get to it. Not only do you have these lovely frameworks, there are a series of activity cards available as well. Now, these activity cards are great because they help us direct the learning towards the different competencies, and they're applicable to many to any material that you're using. So if you found a lovely reading article online, I'm sure you'll be able to find some lovely activities here to complement that reading in your classes. Or if you're using Collaborate, you'll be able to take these different activity cards and look for opportunities to integrate them into your classes as well. Moving on to the next point, if you remember, we said give our students the tools for success. Now, the first tool I'm going to show you is Test and Train. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, Test and Train is a tool that helps our learners towards exam day success. The idea is that it has lots of short on-the-go exam tasks, authentic exam tasks. They're written like a practice paper, but they have examiner comments for the writing, for example, and it's instant feedback as well. What's really nice with the writing as well is not only do you get the question, you get the examiner comments on a sample answer. So the learners can see and the expectation they have for when they do their writing exam. And if you want further support for writing, we also have a really great tool called Write and Improve. Now, Write and Improve, for those of you who don't know, is like a automatic feedback or instant feedback on learners' writing. They write an answer to a question. There are lots of questions on the platform, and they get instant feedback and a level. So you can see that the learners can see what level they're working at, and they get pointers and information on how to move and improve their writing. So for an example here, you can see this is a writing that one of the learner has put into Write and Improve. And the type of feedback it will get are things like this. It will direct them towards correct spellings, such as with friend here. And it will also nudge them towards being aware of areas they may have made mistakes with, for example, grammar. So it's a really nice tool that helps our learners be directed towards improving their writing. And if you don't want to use this tool with your learners, it's a great resource for us as teachers, because on the left-hand side, you can see there is a test zone. And within that test zone, you have a whole bank of writing questions. So if you're looking for ideas on different writing tasks, this is a great place to stop to have a look. You'll be able to pull out lots of different writing questions on all different parts of the writing exam. In this case, we're looking at B2, but you can see part 1, question 1, and you can see part 2, questions 2, 3, and 4. So there's loads and loads of lovely writing resources on this platform as well. And the next thing I wanted to show you is Cambridge One. Now, this is Cambridge's home for digital learning. What Cambridge One offers us is 3 things. Oops, so I've jumped ahead. What it offers us is 3 things. Number 1 is all of our resources in one space. That means that when we use one of the Cambridge courses, we activate our materials online, and we have access to our presentation tool. We have access to the test generator, where you can produce end of unit and end of term tests. You have access to Practice Extra, which is another wonderful tool where we can assign tasks to reinforce the language learning we're doing in class. You also have access to all of your teachers' resources, such as extra worksheets, extra activities. If you're working with learners at different level, the learners create their own account, and we can create a class of learners, and the learners side of Cambridge One is age appropriate. It adapts whether they are young learners, teenagers, or adults, to make it more interactive and friendly for them. And as I mentioned, you can assign tasks to your learners, and we can collect meaningful and relevant data that is actionable. What that means is, for example, when you assign an activity to your learner, what you will see is their first attempt and their best attempt. So the first attempt is a real representation of how well they perform that task, and the best attempt lets us know if they've improved, if they've tried again, or if they or how well they are learning that element. So it's really a great, useful tool that allows us to monitor groups and individuals and see where we can better support them in the class. If you don't have Cambridge One, it's a really easy setup process. You can either do a quick login using Facebook, Google, or Apple, or if you want to register with your school account, you can click on Not Yet Registered at the bottom there, or don't have an account yet, and you can register with your school email. If you have any questions or problems or any doubts at all, you can jump into the help section at the bottom of the page. And here there are loads of tutorials and different FAQs answering all of the types of questions that might pop up when using Cambridge One. Once you're registered, you can jump in and you can see you'll have several sections. At the top, you have your classes where you're able to set up groups for your learners. And what's great with Collaborate is you're able to also manage projects online through My Classes. Underneath, you can see that you have your bookmarked courses, so you'll be able to access them quickly at a click of a button. You can also access your materials through your classes on the My Classes tab. And of course, there is also teacher support and course material. Now, for course material, you can go and look at demos of other courses and just find out more about all of the different resources and courses that Cambridge has to offer. If you click into teacher support, you'll get access to a range of different tutorials. Here you can see just quickly, this is one of the classroom tools. Okay, this is Practice Extra. You can see that there's reinforcement on vocabulary and grammar, and there's always a little game to finish and work on the vocabulary and language from that unit as well. If you want more information or how to use it, then clicking on the modules, there are these purple boxes you'll see in the teachers resources there. And these are guided tutorials on how to get the most out of the different tools on Cambridge One. In this case, it's Practice Extra and the digital workbook. You'll get an introduction on how they work, and it will go through different pedagogy as well and getting the most out of it. So this is the one for Practice Extra, but there's also one for Test and Train. You also have one just for Cambridge One in general, as well as one looking at using the Presentation Plus, which is the front of class presentation tool. So there's loads of great training and resources available on Cambridge One. Now, I've been speaking for a bit. I'm going to give you a chance to share some comments in a minute. But before I do that, I wanted to point out the Exam Preparation Journey website. This is a wonderful starting point for finding resources to help support our learners towards their Cambridge English qualification goals. It has two key resources for me. Number one are the packs. Now, the packs are separate packs that lead us through from the start to the end of the year, and they give us training, activity ideas, different things to consider as we're working with our learners over the year. Now, the other side of it are the resources. You can see there are different tabs or different tiles on the screen for different exams. If you click on these, it will take you straight to the point where you can access all of the key free resources from Cambridge. For example, if you were to click on B2 First for Schools, it would take you straight across to where you can access your handbooks, lesson plans, guides on writing, all of those lovely free resources that Cambridge has to offer. As for other free resources that Cambridge has to offer, do sign up to our newsletter. Now, in our newsletter, you will get lots of resources that will help us prepare our learners and our students for the Cambridge English qualifications. You will also get links and updates on our latest webinars, which cover everything from pedagogy to exam preparation. And you'll also get the latest teacher news and information about events that are relevant to us. Honestly, this is such a wonderful newsletter. It just always has something that we can use in class. If you're really interested in going beyond blogs, for example, we also have a team in the UK who focus on investigation in English language teaching, and they produce a series of white papers. Now, these white papers go into a bit more depth. They explore a bit of the theory behind different elements within English language teaching. And they also give us lots of practical ideas on how we can work on said topics in our classes. So I've just pulled out a few. We've got developing young writers in ELT, giving feedback to language learners, specific learning difficulties in ELT, and looking at motivation as well. There are many, many more available, and they're completely free. I highly recommend you take a look at the different research that is going on from Cambridge in the UK. So next resource I want to, this is the penultimate one before we get started on Collaborate, okay? We have activities for developing sustainability. Now I have a question for you. In the chat box, let me know what words come to mind when you think about sustainability. So please do share in the chat box. When I say the word sustainability, what is it that comes to your mind? Okay, while you're sharing your ideas, I'm going to jump through and we'll look at what Cambridge has to offer. Okay, so we have first and foremost taken three key aspects of sustainability. That is the environment, that is the social, and that is the economic. And taking these as the starting point, we've found and established a definition. So I'll let you read that. Sustainability encompasses the knowledge and the attitudes we need to ensure a fairer, brighter future for people and the natural world. Taking these two things into consideration, we then moved on to consider what it is for the learner in the classroom. And it turns out that what comes out of this investigation is that young people want to play an active part. Young people are surrounded by sustainability topics, whether it's on the news, in school, in learning, and they want to be involved in it. It offers us a meaningful engagement with English language. It gives the learners not only the opportunity to develop life skills, but also use English as a shared language on global discussions. It gives them a meaningful place to have communication. Not only that, it is also in many places either a governmental or an institutional requirement. So taking all of this into account, what Cambridge has done is produce the sustainability framework for ELT. Now, this framework is focused on English language teaching, and it covers 4 dimensions. You can see in the middle circle there, and then 3 key areas per dimension. This is a lovely foundation to consider how to integrate sustainability into the English language classroom. Not only that, there are also a series of activity cards available as well that look at bringing the conversation to the class. And there are nice ways to complement what we're doing in our lessons. And they're also a really nice way to focus on all different areas of sustainability. Now, another area that Cambridge is very interested in supporting teachers is generative AI. Please do share in the chat box any words or phrases on how you feel about AI while I'm talking through this. In AI, it is a bit of it's at its early stages in education, isn't it? There are some teachers who are really on board and they love it and they really want to get involved. And there are other teachers who are maybe a little bit cautious or hesitant on integrating it into the classroom. So what Cambridge has done is produce an ideas pack. And this ideas pack is just exploring several ways that the teacher, us in class, can try to help integrate AI in a natural, productive way that's going to support our learners for the future. Now you can see there are 3 different sections: the digital classroom, the digital world, and the digital teacher. Okay, so these are just different suggestions here on how we can integrate AI into the classroom. So with all that, there's loads of resources available. If you have any questions about them, do share in the chat box. All of the links have been beautifully shared by Marta. Thank you so much, Marta. And we're going to jump into looking at Collaborate now. So what is Collaborate? Well, Collaborate, well, before we start, I'd like to ask you a question. Can you share with us in the chat box 3 ways your coursebook helps you in the classroom? Type your answers into the chat box, please. I'll give you a second to just share with us how you think the coursebook helps you in the language classroom. Okay. Well, while you're writing up your ideas, I will move on. So Collaborate focuses on several key areas. Number one, and for me, the one that I enjoy the most about the course is that it helps us and students take a step towards creating collaborative and a positive classroom. There's so many opportunities to interact, to have conversations, to communicate with each other. It also offers us a new way of, as teachers, teaching and as learners, learning. It is innovative yet practical. And what that means is it follows many of the traditional ways that we like to teach, that what we're comfortable with, what we're familiar with, but it also brings in so many lovely new ways of teaching should we want to. And I'll explore some of those as we go through the unit. And finally, it offers real collaboration. And what that means is not just pair work and working together. That is there, of course, but it's project work with a meaning. So it takes the topics that we've been exploring throughout the different units and gives the learners the opportunity to really put that into action. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through a unit. We're going to explore the different features of each unit. And as we do, I'm also going to give some pedagogical suggestions along the way. So first things first, hi there, Daniela, thank you for joining. So as we go through, to start with, we have the unit opener. Now, every unit starts with a big image. That impactful opening page is all about generating curiosity for our learners. It's about, for us, being able to check their prior knowledge, but also giving the learners an opportunity to share what they already know about the topic. And you see there's a big picture here, and I'm going to ask you, what questions could you ask your learners using this visual or this topic? Lovely, thank you there, Carolina. I've just got your message through. Yeah, lovely, loads of great ideas about sustainability. And 3 ways your coursebook can help you as well, wonderful. It's perfect, it's absolutely perfect. So looking at this visual, this big visual, what could we ask our learners what questions could we ask our learners about this visual? Well, really, we could ask them many things, and some of the, it doesn't matter. The idea is really about trying to get them to engage with it. You also have some video documentary at the beginning. You can see here with these video documentaries, and these are also another way to integrate learning into integrate the idea of introducing the topic. For example, some of the questions you could ask with the video are something you've learned that you didn't know before. They could also look for something surprising and share that, and they could also let us know what their favorite scenes are in the video. Another one of my favorite activities to do with these documentary videos is do silent movies. So we watch the video with no audio, and they predict and they talk to each other about what they think is happening. Then they write it down, and we watch the documentary video again with the audio, and then they can see how much they got right, where they were wrong, what actually was going on. So not only do we have the beautiful big visuals, we also have a lovely documentary video, and we also have extra activities on teachers' resources linked to the videos, which we mustn't forget. And the final thing we have on this first page is the learning outcomes. Now, these boxes, they may seem quite innocent, just sat there at the top, but they are so powerful because they allow us to let our learners know what they are achieving. Remember, I mentioned in the introduction on how we should look at opportunities for success. So the learning outcomes are a great example of how we can do that. We can first identify what we're going to be doing throughout the unit. We're going to let the learners know that these are our objectives. We're giving them a focus. Then, as we go through the units, we can come back to them and use them as a checklist and let them know, well, look, we can now understand texts about animals, or we can now ask and respond to information. It's a nice visual way to show the learners how they are making progress in their English language learning journey. Next, we move on to the vocabulary section, which has lots of lovely features. And the one I wanted to pull out for you today is the Explore It. So as we do the vocabulary, it's always supported with a big visual. And at the end of your vocabulary page, you will have Explore It. This is a guided activity where we have an example question. In this case is a blue whale's tongue is as heavy as, and they have to decide, is it A, B, or C? I'm not going to tell you the answer. I'm going to leave you with the curiosity. But what then it asks them to do is to find an interesting animal fact, then write a question for your partner. So what we're doing is we're encouraging our learners to go away and look for interesting information, maybe about one of the new animal vocabulary we learned in this unit, or about another animal. We're giving them an opportunity to own the language. And on a side note, what we're doing is we're encouraging them not only to develop self-study skills, autonomous learning, but we're also helping them develop research skills to extend their learning beyond just English. We're trying to teach them something new. So these are wonderful little activities that just reinforce the language learning that's going on in the class. Not only that, on the same vocabulary pages, we also have Get It Right. Now you see this little yellow logo. Some of you may already be familiar with it, but what that is telling us is that this activity is informed by the Cambridge Learner Corpus. Now, what is the Cambridge Learner Corpus? That is a database of learners who have taken Cambridge exams. Their exams have been marked, and they're put into a big database. This database, then we can analyze and identify at certain levels what language is particularly challenging for our learners and where our learners are making more common mistakes. So these activities then focus in on helping learners get past these individual mistakes. It's a really nice way to just raise awareness and to be careful with different challenging language in English for the level, of course. We also have the symbol for Use It. Now, what is Use It? Use It is a direct and semi-controlled practice of the language that we're working on. So it gives our learners an opportunity to take the language and put it into a context that is relevant to them. It is controlled because it's not expansive, it's not open-ended, they don't go where they want to with it. They're answering and practicing using the different language. Once they've done their vocabulary, they move into the second vocabulary and listening, and also the grammar. Now, I wanted to bring our attention to the Learn to Learn section here. Learn to Learn, as I mentioned earlier, we have the Cambridge Life Competencies framework, and this framework has a whole section on learning to learn, and that's what's informing our material in Collaborate. And what it's doing is it's teaching our learners different strategies to help them become more independent learners, all aligned to that framework. There are also many other things to see on this page. Wait, I've jumped ahead, sorry. And one of them is on the top right, you can see the Grammar in Action box. Now, this again is another one of those favorites of mine from Collaborate, because they are grammar videos that put the language we are learning in context. So in the context of a vlogger who is a similar age to our learners. And also it gives them brief instructions and guidance and a mini presentation on the grammar points. So what does that mean? That means our learners at home have access to a grammar video, a grammar tutorial. That means for us as a teacher that we can say to them in the previous lesson, once we finish the vocabulary and listening lesson, we can say, well, next lesson we're going to be doing grammar. Here's a video on the Cambridge One platform. You also have an activity sheet for that video. Go home, watch the video, take as much time as you need, understand the language, complete the activity. Then when they come into class, we could be more productive. We could focus on helping them master the different grammar points instead of having to start from the beginning. So what I'm talking about is flipped learning. There are many opportunities within the course to be able to allow us to flip learning. Once we've done the grammar in action pages, we then arrive at our productive pages. Speaking and writing. Now, speaking and writing have, because they are production, the focus is on encouraging our learners to use the language effectively, right? So what we have are useful language boxes, and these are pointers towards the language that they can use to complete the speaking and writing tasks. We also have everyday English, and these are really lovely videos that take a break from the more from the language we're learning in the unit to look at more friendly, colloquial, natural sounding language. For example, in this, one of my common words that I use is really, really. I always say this. And so this activity raises awareness of those different complementary things to the language learning, right? And then you can see we have the tasks. Now, the tasks, you may notice, follow a similar structure. Plan, speak, check. Plan, write, check. And this structure flows throughout Collaborate as well. The planning stage gives the learner an opportunity to come up with what they're going to say or write. The speak or write section gives them the opportunity to practice and produce their writing or speaking with a checklist. And the checklist helps them, nudges them towards the type of resources that they've looked at and what they can use to make this activity the best that they can do. And then finally, they have check. And this is where either in speaking, they can listen to another pair having the conversation, or writing, they can read another person's writing. And they use the checklist to see if they have included the different resources, language, and points. So it's this lovely collaborative process. And again, the name is Collaborate for a reason. It's always encouraging our learners to collaborate and work together and help and support each other. And of course, you can see the last little box there on the right is Get It Right. That's another Get It Right section, looking at language linked to the useful language, in this case with the writing. Be careful of these mistakes that are common at this level using this language. Once we've done all of that language learning side of the lessons, we then jump into Around the World. Now, Around the World are culture pages that focus on different interesting topics. They help us to think critically and also raise awareness of other parts of the world and other things that are going on. They're really lovely, and in my experience, the kids, the teens, they love them. Within this Around the World pages, you have Globetrotters documentaries, so more documentaries that are great fun. They link to the context. They also use the grammar and vocabulary from the unit. They put it into context. So another opportunity to recognize success for the learners. And as we go through, you'll notice at the very end of the page, you also have a mini project. Every Around the World page, which are in units 1, 3, 5, 7, odd number units, there is a project linked to it. So if it was a particularly popular around the world section, we can expand it further and do a project. Now, the project you can either do in class or you can do it online via Cambridge One. And I'll look at projects in a bit more detail in a minute. But before we do, I wanted to draw attention to Voice It. So you remember earlier on, I showed you Use It, and that was a controlled practice that helps the learners put the language into practice. Voice It, on the other hand, is a thought-provoking speaking activity, which asks our learners to give their personal responses. It is open. We can allow them to take control of the conversation and take the conversation related to the topic where they want to go. And that's a real motivator for our learners. That really helps them to take control and own the language that we are using. So a question for you, what activities could you do with these? In the chat box, let me know if there's an activity you think, with these Voice It questions, what could we do with them? While you're writing up your ideas and sharing, I'm going to give you a few pointers on what I think we could do with them. So first things first, and I love it, is a debate. We can ask our learners to do a fishbowl debate. Now, what that is we have divided our class into outer circle and inner circle into two. And then in the inner circle, we can divide them up and get them to have a conversation about the question. While they're having their conversation in the inner circle, the outer circle listens and takes notes. Then once they've finished, they swap roles. So the outer circle moves into the middle and the middle moves to the outer. And now with their notes and hearing the first conversation, they can then have another conversation. And we can repeat this process to expand if we want to. This is really nice because it changes the interaction. It's really nice because it encourages speaking, listening, reading, and writing. No, it's really nice also in mixed ability classes. So if we have learners who are maybe finding the language more challenging at that moment in time, we can allow them to be on the outer circle first of all, listen, get ideas, think about how they're going to communicate on the topic, and then they get the opportunity to go into the middle with notes to help them along the way. A really lovely way to do different debates. The next one is speed dating, and speed dating is getting our learners into two groups and get them facing each other in a line. They have a minute or a 2-minute conversation on a question, then they swap partners. They move down the line. So one side moves down. And they have another conversation without the same topic, and then they move down. They have another conversation about the same topic, and they move down. And maybe after 2 or 3 times, we can give them another question, and they have the second question, have a minute debate, move down, move down. And what we're doing here is we're encouraging our learners to rehearse, practice the conversation, get different ideas from different people, and then practice speaking as well. And the final one is called a silent debate. A silent debate is not so silent, but it is silent in the sense that we have 2 opposing points. On one side of the room, we have one group. On the other side of the room, we have another group. And what each group does is they work together to come up with a series of arguments about a topic and write it down onto a piece of paper. Then once they've finished writing their arguments and their ideas on a piece of paper, they swap sides. And they write the counter arguments, reading the comments, and share like how they would counter each argument. And they can come back and you can repeat this process several times. So in this sense, it's a really lovely activity that's encouraging them to work as a team, to have a debate, but not directly debating by talking to each other. And so these are just different dynamics that we can use in the class with those Voice It questions. There's just so many wonderful things we can do, and what I like to call heads up teaching. Heads down teaching is when we're doing activities in the book. Heads up teaching is when we come into the classroom and we start having interactions with everyone around us. Another really important factor for Collaborate, this is especially for Spain, is the LOMLOE integration. Now, LOMLOE refers to the new law that looks at integrating competencies into evaluation and teaching in Spain. Collaborate is designed to incorporate all of these different features throughout. This is a lovely page at the beginning of the teacher's book that guides us along the way to finding opportunities to look at and evaluate competencies in the classroom. Not only that, we also have many projects available. So Collaborate is one of the biggest banks of projects integrated to it. So not only for those culture pages do we have projects, we also have extra projects that focus on different competencies, as well as there are also CLIL pages on units 2, 4, 6, 8. So the even units, there are CLIL projects as well. In fact, I'll show you one in a second. There are also lovely evaluation material linked to different competencies that we can use and share with our learners to support their development. But before we go into that, I wanted to look at mediation. So mediation is also a really nice feature that's been integrated into Collaborate. And you can see that in this example of the text box. This reading activity has been split into 3, okay? And that means that we can take advantage of that. You can see here on the right, there's instructions in the course looking at how we could take these 3 different parts and create a more dynamic, integrated way to teach reading. How does it work? Well, first of all, we split it into 3 and get our learners into groups of 3. In their groups, each learner, A, B, C, takes one part of the text. Then all of the learners with A join together here, all of the learners with B join together there, and all of the learners with part C join together over here. They have an activity where they summarize, review, maybe translate it into their first language, maybe come up for a first language summary of the text so everybody understands what the text is about. We give them the security of knowing what the text is about. Then they return to their, Daniela, finding out keywords or sentences, any activity that gets them reading and paying attention to the text, their text. Then they return to their home group where there's a learner with each part of the text, so an A, B, C together. And when they're back in that, they do another activity and they are responsible for their text. They are the ones that are there to share and help support everyone else in the group about their section of the reading. So this is called a mediation task, and it's really a really lovely way to create dynamic interaction in the classroom. So there's a question, where you can buy this book. You have get in touch with your local Cambridge representative. They'll be able to guide you on the best place to go find this material. You can find that on the Cambridge website to get in touch with your local Cambridge representatives. At the end of the unit, we have a review and we also have finished. So the review is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a review of the vocabulary and grammar and language we've been looking at in the unit. And finished is a fast finishers page. By that, it is an activity for mixed ability classrooms. If you have some learners who are finishing sooner than other learners, well, then they can go to these pages and they can practice and do some games or little puzzles to reinforce the language that we've been covering in class. So I did mention projects already several times. Not only are there projects, there is also a project book. Now this is for the teachers, and what this has inside it is not only full instructions on how to manage the project, it also has full instructions and guidance on different areas that are important to project success. So, for example, roles and responsibilities. There's a whole section looking at how we can effectively manage roles and responsibilities in project work. On the other side, we also have a rubric where you can, which it helps us evaluate and assess the different performance of our learners in the different projects. Not only that, it gives us guidance on different challenges for the different projects, and it gives us suggestions on how we can deal with those different challenges as well. So here you can see the history project. This is what they look like at the back of the book. And this one is linked to the CLIL pages. So as I mentioned, units 1, 3, 5, 7, or the odd number units, they have an around the world culture section. Units 2, 4, 6, 8, or the even numbered units have CLIL pages. And these projects are structured in a lovely way because they do several things. They have how-to boxes, which help us focus on different skills that learners might need when it comes to doing different projects. It gives them support on how to achieve the project task, as well as life skills and skills they might need in the future. And it also follows that same structure we saw in the productive task, in the speaking and writing. No, you can see there's plan, present, check. So again, following that same methodology of the learners become familiar with this process, and it makes the projects easier to manage as well. Not only that, you also have on the online resources Learn to Learn booklet, which has lots of lessons building on those different sections from the student's book. They introduce learners to different strategies and techniques to become more independent learners. And also there's a digital extension task at the end. So what does Cambridge come with when you use a Cambridge course? Well, of course, you have Cambridge One, which is your home of digital learning. You also have Presentation Plus, which is your front of class tool. This front of class tool really is about where we can access our media, the videos, the audios, extra activity banks to do feedback in class, our teacher's book, our activity book, the project book, all of those resources in one tool. This is going to be the tool that you'll use the most, I guarantee it. Then also on Cambridge One, you have access to the Teacher's Resource Bank. These are projects, worksheets, extra activities. As I mentioned earlier, you have the grammar videos, the grammar in action videos, the worksheets that are related to the grammar in action videos we can access here. Then there is the digital collaboration space. This is where we can manage projects online. So if you don't want to do projects in class, that's fine. You have a space where learners can group and work together on the different projects, as well as Practice Extra, as I mentioned at the beginning as well. Practice Extra includes lots of mobile-friendly, bite-sized activities to support the language learning throughout the class. So all in all, I've got a few final tips for you when it comes to teaching teens. Number one, providing a communicative focus. Always try to think to ourselves, is there a way I can give students a reason to communicate with this activity? It's the most motivational thing for teenage learners, but also the great thing is Collaborate, obviously, as we've seen, integrates this all the way throughout. Number two, giving more opportunities for students speaking. Is there something students can speak about? Is there a potential role play or a discussion that I can have related to this topic? Whether you want to do AI, whether you want to do the sustainability, there's so many different things that we can do when it comes to speaking and communication in the course. Another question that I want to encourage you to ask yourselves is, do I, the teacher, need to maintain control of this activity, or can I hand things over to my learners? What does that mean? Those voice it sections. Do I need to be telling the learners what to talk about, Or can I let them take the conversation where they want to take it? And that learner and student-centeredness is a real motivator for our learners. Another one we looked at today and is really important is offering variety of interaction. Would it be more interesting for our students to do this in pairs, groups, threes, teams? How can I get them moving around the room? How can I get them talking and interacting with each other? So I showed you those 3 different debate techniques. We had the fishbowl, we had the speed dating, and we had the silent debate. Think about all these different dynamics that we have available. Also, try to make sure that when learners produce some content, that content is taken advantage of. So as you saw with the speaking and the writing and the projects, it comes to the check. It's always encouraging that other learners to interact with their peers' work, get ideas, see what's achievable. It's just building a lovely community of self-improvement and peer improvement in the class. And finally, as much as we can, try to also include the fun elements. How can I turn this into a game? How can I make it a competition? How can I get everybody involved in the class? So there you go. These ideas all come from a really lovely resource called Off the Page. It's another great teacher development, professional learning and development course. One of my favorites as well. So that was the session. I hope that was useful for you. I can't share the poll. I don't know if Marta is able to share the poll. There's also the contact if you want to get in touch with one of our colleagues. There's a link in the chat box. Oh, Marta, can you share it to everybody? Sorry. The contact us is really, really important. Get in touch with us. Don't forget you will receive a follow-up email with the video of this session as well as your certificates. That is really a really nice little thing to have as well. And that's that. I've got nothing else to share with you. Thank you for joining. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Feel free to ask. That would be great. And if not, all the best in the future. I hope your year goes well. Please do join us for other training sessions and webinars. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye now.